Flux. My name is Pauline and welcome on PissedConsumer YouTube channel. Have you ever noticed that your favorite snack or everyday expendable item has decreased in volume but at the same time has become more expensive? Just to let you know that you are not alone.
Shrinkflation is something that really upsets a lot of people, a lot of consumers.
Why is this happening? The secret is revealed. Two terrible words, shrinkflation and inflation. Let's figure out what it is and what we can do about it. But first, let me explain you these two concepts. Shrinkflation refers to reducing the size or quantity of a product while maintaining or even increasing its price.
It is basically a packaging strategy, allowing manufacturers to reduce quantities while charging you and I the same price. And we've seen shrinkflation impact most food categories. It's mostly outside of fresh, so packaged goods, non-perishables have been impacted by shrinkflation, and it's been around for decades. But every time commodity prices go up or input costs, manufacturers tend to actually use shrinkflation as a strategy not to lose market share.
Inflation, on the other hand, is the general increase in the prices of a product or services.
A lot of it started when the pandemic happened. And so that's when we really started to see things climb. And it's just not the pandemic. We've got climate change issues. We've got diseases, within the food supply chain. And then we've got other anomalies that have been happening that it's just been impacting everything overall. And that's really the gist of it. And so in 2022, we really saw, inflation really take off. 2023, it seems like things are going to start to come down.
Though shrinkflation is just one of the tactics that companies use to deal with inflation, it significantly impacts the consumer.
That's a strategy, yeah. So, of course, everything is disclosed at the point of sale. Consumers should look at the price per 100 grams or 100 milliliters. The challenge that we see is more about policy and how data agencies are tracking the impact of shrinkflation on food inflation specifically. Statistics Canada, for example, in Canada, has claimed that they do look at shrinkflation, but we haven't seen any evidence of that, which means that they could actually be underestimating food inflation in the country.
To understand the causes of the inflation in the US, we have talked to an expert, Professor Patrick Panfield.
If I can change my packaging, make it a little smaller, still charge you the same price, you're not going to be upset, because a lot of us, unfortunately, we don't look at the sizes, like I don't, and I'm I kind of I always buy my box of cookies, and I've never really looked at how many ounces. In my mind, I might be thinking, well, maybe my family's eating more of my cookies because they seem to go faster, so you're like, it just seems like everything is going faster. So unfortunately, especially with food, the consumer goods folks, the folks that make your packaged foods, they've been doing a lot of this, which is just crazy.
Let's analyze it with examples of some products and our users' experience.
I was shorted for Oreos, almost 10%. I expected a full package. If this is shrinkflation, you're doing it wrong. I don't like the fact you gave no notice to changing ply of the toilet paper on the mega rolls. Bought one and it was smaller, same name, Soft Essential. Procter & Gamble has reduced the size of their so-called mega rolls considerably. What a rip-off.
Consumers have noticed that their favorite products are becoming smaller, from Oreo to toilet paper or cigarettes. They pay more for less, which definitely makes them pissed. Some of them even think that shrinkflation is a scam. Is it so?
It can be considered as fraud because all the information is actually readily available. So it's been argued before that that these cases can be considered as fraudulent. but they're not really. However, it doesn't mean that fraud is not occurring, because there's some adulteration that does occur, misrepresentation of certain products, and that certainly is a huge problem, especially with fish and seafood. For example, some species are not properly labeled. Sometimes there are going to be ingredients in a product that is not mentioned on the label. That's food fraud. But when it comes to shrinkflation, all the information is there, and so if you don't pay attention, you will be frustrated, obviously, but I wouldn't consider those cases as being fraudulent.
The number of reasons for shrinkflation and inflation.
Hopefully at the level that that would make sense, but it's really going to be dependent on inflation. You know, if inflation pops back up again, then you could see the Fed, you know, trying to increase interest rates. So my hope, my expectation is that you know, in 2024 is when we'll start to see the interest rates go down. Maybe not as fast as when they went up, but they will start to come down, especially if we start to see inflation numbers start to drop. And that, again, that could actually help, you know, the Fed kind of maybe push through some more bigger decreases.
But what can we do as consumers to avoid cutting expenses and feeling cheated?
I think, you know, one of the things that I probably would do is, again, look for the deals. I think food prices, that's the interesting with food. You know, food, it's not really, there's not a demand pattern with food. Food is a constant, right? We all have to eat, you know, so that's, you know, that's the dilemma. So that's why the price drops haven't happened. But I think if I were the consumer, I am a consumer, you know, one of the things that you have to do is shop around and look, right? And look to see where the best deals are. And I think, you know, food prices will start to come down somewhat. You know, the issue, you know, with eggs was the avian flu, right? So 10% of hens, you know, were killed or destroyed because of the avian flu. And that's, you know, a part of the reason why egg prices went up. Fertilizer, labor, like I talked about earlier, you know, that impacted the egg farmers. And so that's why egg prices have gone up so much. But egg prices are starting to come down. I think the nice thing is that, you know, we've got the summer coming. So fruits and vegetables, you know, especially in your particular regions, will come down in price also. So, you know, I think it's just about a question of shopping and looking for the best opportunities. I think the one thing I would be concerned about is interest rates. So if I'm a consumer, you know, I'd look at your credit cards, you know, see if you can switch to lower interest rates if you have to have a credit card or have to use credit cards. You know, try maybe to look at maybe postponing big purchases, you know, especially if interest rates are really high. It's difficult, you know, when you have a big car payment and a big house payment, you know, especially in the time. But I eventually think things will come down. I think with interest rates, maybe in 2024, middle of 2024, we'll start to see them hopefully start to come down.
While companies may continue using shrinkflation as a response to inflation, we still must be guided by the principle of conscious consumption. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will not miss any interesting videos.